Online Racing is sponsored by Elgato, who created this lovely Stream Deck. For more information about the Stream Deck, the link is in the description below.
Within the landscape of the Ardennes Forest lies a circuit that has reached near mythical status among the motorsport community, and it is here at Spa-Francorchamps where the AOR F1 Championship continues for the Belgian Grand Prix. This circuit in its original form first had held an F1 race back in the 1950s and has seen plenty of changes since then, but nonetheless has maintained its characters as one of the most awesome challenges for any racing driver throughout a season, particularly in real life and indeed on the games such as this. I am Mark Alimonda, and in terms of my commentary partner, he is actually at a rock concert, so it will be just me bringing you all the action of this fantastic racing series on Apex Online Racing. So before we get underway with qualifying, let's take a look at this legendary 7-kilometer circuit, the longest track on the calendar this season. 19 corners featuring some names in terms of the track that need no introduction, particularly Sector 1. From La Source Hairpin for the roller coaster ride through Eau Rouge, Radion, the Campbell Straight, and ending with Les Comtes, where the majority of the overtaking action will take place. There is another smaller DRS zone from turn 19 to turn 1, where we may see some similar overtakes. Be careful not to cut the corner there, or it will be an instant penalty knowing this particular game. Your usual 18-minute qualifying session followed by 22 laps, the shortest number of laps for any track in this particular season. So if it's a dry race, it may well be quite a short event for this one. So it is the hardest choice of tyres for today's race, the C1, C2 and C3, but given the unpredictable nature of the Ardennes Forest, we may well see some wet weather action later on. But let's take a quick look at the championship standings after 12 rounds. And Tiro Snitzer, well, he picked up yet another victory at the Hungaroring last week, which now means he has a 145 point advantage to Michael, but that is effectively 164 points to Spa-Francorchamps, because Michael of course moved over to PC, with Casper in 4th, Stay Frosty in 5th, Jim Roy after his excellent 2nd place last week in Hungary moving back into the top 6 of the championship, and some new entries down below: Danny MG, Blizzard, Jim Perez and Lee Finley after his great podium last week into the top 10 for the first time this season. And in terms of the Constructors' Championship, well, Mercedes have really been building a gap recently thanks to the brilliant efforts of the defending champion Schnitzel. 296 points they now have, with Williams in 2nd. Toro Rosso now have a bit of a gap thanks to Lee Finley's efforts, with Red Bull back into the top 5 of the Constructors' Championship. And look at that down below, finally, and I mean finally, after the first round of the season, Ferrari are off the wooden spoon position, with Racing Point taking their place for the time being in that ring. So the likes of Desso and Hugo will be desperately hoping to get Racing Point off of that particular position. So then let's go straight into the qualifying session, which has been underway. Thankfully, no lateness in terms of the field today. So let's go onto track for the live action, as we see the Racing Point following one of the Renaults behind. So a warm welcome to those in the chat who are watching. It was a slightly later start last week because of the clash of the Brazilian Grand Prix, but normal time this week and normal service. So in terms of the pole time, well, we could be looking at something in the high 41s, I've been told, but the average time may well be more the low 42s for those further down the grid. Now, in terms of the tyre strategies, it's more simple this time around. The soft tyre is a viable qualifying tyre, and we're going to go on board with Desso making his debut in AOR Tier 1 today. So then, heading up to the La Source hairpin for the first time in anger. A nice Ayrton Senna helmet there. So he must have bought that particular edition of the game. And then the rundown, the thrilling rundown to perhaps arguably the greatest Sector 1 in Formula 1. Eau Rouge, Radion, flat out. Not the mighty challenge it once was, thanks to the amazing aerodynamics that these modern cars have. Opening the DRS well over 200 miles an hour as we try to judge the braking point to perfection at the end of the commentary. Then into Les Comtes, You want to keep nice tight control here, and then you can almost go off throttle into the next corner as they head down towards Rivage, which is a very awkward braking zone. You can easily go deep into there, but it's nice and smooth on the throttle there so far, so that's pretty good from Desso. We'll talk about, and he goes slightly wide as we head towards arguably the toughest corner on the track these days, Pouon. You don't really want to put your wheels onto any of the inside curves, because if you spin up the wheels, you can easily send yourself towards one of the crash barriers. And in terms of the circuit, I have read a lot about the original circuit back in the day, and you just think, well, imagine this circuit being double the length and having no Armco barriers and just having straw bale barriers, and no wonder it had a reputation as being one of the most dangerous circuits on the F1 calendar, seconded only probably by the Nürburgring. Through Blanchimont then Desso goes, a 142.245 set by Speed Bari, setting the early pace in this particular session, and then into the bus stop chicane. Instant next lap invalidation if you cut the corner here. So what's Desso going to do? He heads for the line then for his first run, and it's going to be P3. So not a bad effort from Desso in the early part of this session. But let's have a look at Tyrrell Schnitzel, who's going through Blanchimont right now, and he'll be looking to score what would be, if he wins tonight, his 11th victory of the season. I should say 10th victory of the season. So he's looking to go into double figures. We've had 12 races so far, and he has won 9 of them. And he has not been off the top 2 steps of the podium all season. So it's only really a question of when he wins the championship rather than if he'll win the championship. But it's only good enough for P2 at the moment. Now, Speed Bari, he's on an in-lap at the moment, but I've mentioned him. He had some internet issues, so he did miss the last couple of races, or the race at Hungary last week. So he'll be looking to get back on track, because he'll be looking to get the second place in the championship, which is very much in reach now that Michael's got up to PC. 19 points between Michael and Speed Bari at the moment. So you would expect, assuming Speed Bari turns up for all the races going forward in the rest of the season, that he will get that second place at least. But he has got the likes of Casper not too far behind him, so he's got to keep performing at the level he has been. A race winner, of course, this season at France, which was the best race of the season so far. But Belgium does have a reputation for bringing us spectacular races. The overtakes in Sector 1. In many ways, the setup here, very oddly, you would think, given how different they are as circuits, the setup here is not too far off Monza, because you have to set up for low downforce here. Try and hang on in the slower Sector 2 sections, because you need the straight line speed, because it's not just in terms of the overtakes and defense. If you don't have the straight line speeds on the flat out sections, because 70% of this lap is taken at full throttle, if you don't have that straight line speed, you're going to lose so much time, even in qualifying on these flat out sections, particularly Sector 1 and Sector 3. As we watch Hugo going through the middle part of Sector 2. So we've got 15 drivers out there this evening. Danny MG has been impressing quite a bit recently. In his in the last 3 races, he's had 2 podiums, a third at Britain, a second in Germany. Missed the Hungarian Grand Prix last week, as did several drivers, in fact. But no Williams drivers here today, so that's going to only make it easier for Mercedes to run away with the Constructors' Championship now. So it is a slight shame that both championships are more or less, at this stage, done and dusted. Let's have a quick look at Lee Finley, who was so impressive for Hungary last week. He's currently in P4. I think he may be in lap, actually. And let's see, Danny MG definitely is. So let's see if we can get someone else. Tactician is on an outlap. What about Alex, the veteran? Yeah, let's give Alex some TV time. He has spent most of the season fighting in the low orders of the top 10, or just outside it. He has had a few decent results this season. In particular, a 6th place at Austria and a 9th straight after that at Britain being his particular highlights. So he heads for some reason I'm getting no sound out of my monitor. It's coming out of it's definitely coming out in terms of the stream. I'm not sure why it's so quiet, so I may have to look into that. But through Eau Rouge and Radion, we may have invalidated straight away there, to be honest, because he took quite a narrow line to the left. As he heads up to the end of the Campbell straight, and yes, he has invalidated straight away. So we will go straight to someone else. Let's see. What about Stay Frosty? P5 in the championship at the moment, doing pretty well. Had a bit of a slump in the middle part of the first half of the season, but then he won that incredible race at Silverstone, didn't he? Got the strategy spot on, and even Tyrrell Snitzel had no answer for it as he won his first ever Tier 1 race, and he would love something similar. Now, in terms of Jim Roy, he's worth mentioning. The last time he raced here in season 17, he had pole position, and he had the race victory as well. Yes, I'm getting no engine sound either, but I don't think it's the stream because I haven't got that muted. I think it's actually a glitch of the game. Unfortunately, the spectator mode. I might briefly try and rejoin, but we'll see if we get an opportunity to do that because that's slightly frustrating. Can't it? Because you can actually hear the sort of backgrounds. You get the sort of background announcers from the stand, so you can hear that. So it's a bit odd, really. I don't think I've had that this season before. So in terms of the gap, well, it's very close between the top two, as you would expect. Speedbarry has been one of the drivers this season consistently able to challenge Schnitzel in the qualifying sessions. He's had several pole positions this season, and no one else really close to those two so far. Less than a tenth covering those two. And oh, look at this. There is some teamwork going on here. We may see a bit more of that from those who have both drivers here. Getting a nice toe on the Campbell straight. Yeah, no sound. So I do apologise for the issues with the game at the moment. But Dan Alves getting a nice toe. He heads into Rovage. And now, heading down towards Pouon. Such a challenge, even for these aerodynamic monsters on the game these days and in the sport. This is certainly the toughest corner on the track. Whoa! And he goes really wide. So much speed and commitment to that, but maybe a little bit too much speed. Because he definitely ran wide there. Would have lost a tenth there. Because that's not the optimum line going wide there. And again, he runs. Oh, and that car looks like it's running pretty low downforce. He's certainly quicker on his current flying lap. And amazingly, he hasn't invalidated because he's still going for it. So we'll carry on with Alves. Just want to see where Schnitzel Speedbarry goes quicker. 42.085. Schnitzel is just about to enter Blanchemont, but I think we'll just carry on with Alves because Alves is rounding the final corner. This has looked like a pretty hairy lap for him. What's it going to be? Is it going to be an improvement for Alves? And no, it's not. So he must have invalidated somewhere. So we'll go straight back to Schnitzel, who's now 3 tenths behind Speedbarry. So he's got to try and find a bit more time. Here comes Cyril Schnitzel. What's it going to be for the reigning champion? It's going to be an improvement, but only to put it under 3 tenths. So Speedbarry at the moment has the measure of the Mercedes driver. So this is an excellent comeback for Speedbarry so far, and I suspect that the Toro Rosso drivers are doing some effective teamwork because it looks like they were towing each other again, this time for Lee Finley. He's looking to follow up on that excellent podium last week. So Jim Roy currently in P7. And look at that, the two Mercedes again. And Casper goes quicker as well. So Casper goes quicker than Tyrrell Schnitzel. So the times are starting to go down. And I think Alex has got a toe off his teammate. No, it looks like he got a toe off his teammate. No, in fact, both Mercedes in laps. So in terms of the weather, I haven't had any indication what the weather's going to be for this particular race. No, nothing from the resident weatherman, that is Casper. So it looks like at the moment it could be a dry race. But in terms of the tyre compounds, unlike Hungary where the softs were absolutely useless to use, the softs are very much a viable qualifying tyre here at Spa-Francorchamps. So expect the entirety of the top 10 to be on those soft tyres at the end of the session. So anyone else out there? Lee Finley goes P3. Danny MG on a fast lap. Through the final corner, Danny MG goes. 2 podiums this season for him. Heading for the line then. Danny MG, can he improve from his current P7 position? And he does. P4 above Tyrrell Schnitzel. Well, that would make quite an interesting session if this ends up like this with Schnitzel having to do some overtakes. But we did, of course, see in Germany that Tyrrell Schnitzel has no problem coming from further down the field to win races. But it may be a slightly different scenario, though, if everyone's starting on the same tyres. So it looks like everyone's finished their lap, so everyone's going to be dashing back to the pits. It's a very long lap here. So, you know, if you misjudge in terms of the outlap and getting back to the pits, the end lap after your session, then you may run out of time to get that lap done. Say Frosty has opted to come out early for his final flying run. Jim Nardi Perez in P13, Alex in 14th. So your current pole position time at 1:42.015. Just going to briefly pause the game. Just going to see if that makes any difference. No, that made no difference, unfortunately. So I'm hoping the sound comes back in the formation lap. Otherwise, I may have to consider leaving. It's a long formation lap, so I may have to consider leaving during the formation lap. I've got multiple invites, so that wouldn't be a problem. So Speed Barry coming out again. So he's come out somewhat early, perhaps to avoid traffic. So anyone on a flying lap at the moment? No, we've got Speed Barry, Tactician, Stay Frosty on their out laps at the moment. And it looks like Stay Frosty will be starting that first. Yeah, well before any of the others. So we'll stick with Stay Frosty. Currently in P11. And then into the bus stop. Complete reverse in terms of the angle. Anyone who remembers the old bus stop, it went the opposite way. And I preferred the old bus stop. It had a nicer flow onto the start-finish straight. But it doesn't take away too much from what is my favourite circuit, at least. And it is many others' favourite circuit in terms of F1, at least. Even the rallycross circuit isn't too bad. And here we go then, the McLarens teaming up once again to give each other some tow. So they'll be hoping this works because they're only P11 and P15 at the moment. Oh, this is a little bit too close. You could see the car was slightly complaining at the top of Radion, but that probably didn't affect his speed too much. Well up to 210 miles an hour, so that is very low downforce. He is running. Then through Lecom and then into the following section of corners. And then onto Rivage. Now, some of the corner names, of course, are named after some of the villages that surround this area, the likes of Malmedy and Stavelo. Stavelo being turn 15, just at the end of Sector 2. Because this circuit, more or less, and Daniel Alves has left the session. So hopefully he can reconnect. So yes, I'm going to, after this session, I'm going to put a video on the screen. And I'm going to use the spare invite and rejoin the session to get the sound back. So it shouldn't interrupt the broadcast at all because there will be some content in between quali and the race, of course, as usual. So Stay Frosty carries on. I'm going to switch to Speed Barry soon because he's on his final flying lap. Cyril Snitzel, Danny MG, Lee Finney, they're all pouring out of the pit lane now. Can Stay Frosty improve from his current P11? You'll be hoping so, because this is, without a doubt, one of the most dangerous lap ones, given the high speeds on offer here. So through the final corner, Save Frosty goes. What's it going to be? Heading across the line, and it's going to be Save Frosty, and he stays exactly where he is. So Speed Barry continuing on. Did he get any sort of help from his teammate Lee Finley? Flying through Pouon for the final time. Save Frosty retires from the session. So his session is over. P11, so pretty poor qualifying session, and Daniel Evans, even if he can rejoin, will not be able to set a lap, so it's been a pretty awful session for the team currently P6 in the AOR F1 PS4 constructor standings. So we will switch immediately to the likes of Casper, Lee Finney, Danny MG and Tyrrell Snitzel when we get an opportunity, because it looks like, judging from the times, they are the fire drivers who will be in the fight for pole position. Unless, of course, the likes of Blizzard, Tactician and Jim Roy, who we have seen in the past has gone very well at this track, can get involved in the party. So Speed Barry heading through to the end of Blanchemont, then into the bus stop. Got to get the apex spot on here and not spin up the tyres before the very short dash to the line. What's it going to be for Speed Barry? Is it going to be into 41? Yes, it is. A 41.787. Cyril Snitzel's got to find half a second to take pole position away from the Toro Rosso driver. Even for someone with the gifts that Snitzel's had, at least in recent seasons, that is a tall order indeed. This would be an unbelievable lap if he takes pole position away from Speed Barry, who has been on absolute fire in this qualifying session. So Snitzel looks like he's up on his best time. So is it going to be enough? I'm just not sure he's going to have enough here. Maybe if he could have got a tow here as well. But Tyrrell Snitzel, you never underestimate him. He's had multiple pole positions and, of course, 9 victories this season. Through the final corner he goes. Tyrrell Snitzel, what can he do? Can he go from P6 to take pole position away? He got a bit of wheel spinning there, and it's only good enough for P3. Couldn't get enough there. Nicholas Mateo moves up to P7. Lee Finley carries on. Tactician has moved up to P4. Is anyone, what about Blizzard? Blizzard is heading through Pouon at the moment. No, I should say Stavelo. So he's not too far from the end of the lap. Casper not far behind him. What about Lee Finley? Lee Finley heading towards Fanyez and then into Stavelo. So it looks like it's going to be Blizzard who finishes the lap first. So let's have a quick look at Blizzard. Hurtling through Blanchimont for the final time in this session. But speed bar at 1:44.787, that is an absolute barnstorm of a lap. Can anyone get anywhere near that? So here comes Blizzard, heading for the line, currently in P10, good enough for P8, so a decent session. Casper heading through the bus stop, Danny MG just behind him. So what can Casper do? Casper crosses the line, it's P2. Improves but not enough, Danny MG P6. Lee Finley P3. So it's a Toro Rosso 1-3. What a session for the junior Red Bull team. Incredible. There's only one person you can really talk about, and that is Speed Barry. What a session for the driver who missed the last week's race due to internet problems, but he has come back with a bang. Nearly 2/10 of a second ahead of Casper, who himself had a great session. So Tyrrell Snitzer will start on the second row with Tactician and Danny MG 5th and 6th. Hugh Golf in P7, Blizzard in 8, Nixon Materi in 9th, and Deso on his debut in P10. With Jim Roy, well, you have to say Red Bull have had a pretty disappointing session there. They're not even close to the front. P11 for Jim Roy, P13 for Jim Nardi Perez. The two had such excellent races last week, but not this time. So we're just going to wait for the final driver to retire, and then we will be in this session. We'll briefly go over the top 10, and then we will immediately... Oh, and I have engine sound back. Right at the end of the session, Casper has reactivated the sound. I'm still going to rejoin anyway, just in case. But, well, thank you, Codemasters. We needed the engine sound then. So Speed Barry takes pole position, and Lee Finley, I did not see that on the screen. He has a grid penalty. He's lost 5 positions, so that promotes Snitzel up to P3, Casper in P2, Tactician in P5, Danny MG in P6, Hugh Golf in 7th, Blizzard in 8th, Nicholas Terry in 9th, Deso in 10th, and then outside the top 10 we have Roy, Frosty, Nardi Perez, and at the back of the grid we have Alex and Daniel Alves. So we've got a bit of a hurry on, so let's immediately get that rejoin started, and gonna some footage from earlier today of the demonstration of one of the all-time great V8 cars, the 2010 Red Bull, that won Sebastian Vettel his first ever championship. So bear with me. Because it's such a long lap, I'm going to just see if we get the engine sound back. Because apparently the driver who left the session, Alves, could not rejoin the session. So I don't want to risk not being able to rejoin the session. No sound at the moment, but we haven't quite got onto the formation lap. So hopefully it just comes back. That would be very good. But yes, some of those who have tried to rejoin haven't been able to, so I'm not going to risk not being able to bring you anything. So it may be almost a radio with images broadcast. It looks like we may have sound actually. Yeah, we have sound. Woohoo! We have sound, ladies and gentlemen. Hallelujah. So let's end this. Let's get back to the formation lap then for this particular race. Then as they head through El Rouge on radio. So then, with that penalty, well, Lee Finley is in P13. I thought he only lost 5 places, so how on earth has Lee Finley ended up in P13? Unless I read that wrong, or the stewards decided after the session, you know what, we'll give you a 10 place grid penalty. Well, that is terrible luck for Lee Finley. We didn't see what happened. But I didn't see anything appear on the screen. I don't know if anyone else did during the session because I was concentrating so much on the qualifying laps themselves. I didn't see that flash up on the screen. It may well have appeared when a fastest lap was going on, so maybe that's why I didn't see it. But Lee Finley, well, he qualified in P3, but he now starts P13, so that is awful for him. But let's focus on the matter at hand. In terms of the tyre choices outside the top 10, it is a mixture of soft and medium compound choices. So Jim Roby looking to get the alternate strategy working, something he has been very good at doing in the past, particularly back in season 16 and 17. And he won't be giving up hope or getting onto the podium again. So mediums for Jim Roy, Save Frosty, Nardi Perez and Alex, with softs for Lee Finley and Daniel Alves. So back to the front then as the grid begins to form, getting their tyres warmed up before this race gets underway. So Speedbarry will be somewhat hoping that Casper can at least hold Tyrrell Snitzel back for a little bit, because we all know that Tyrrell Snitzel hasn't always got the best pace in qualifying, but his race pace is absolutely incredible during the course of this season, looking to extend that incredible sequence of being in the top 2 every single race at least so far this season. This is round 13 of the AOR F1 PS4 Championship, and we are here at Spa-Francorchamps for the Belgian Grand Prix. The grid is formed. The 5 red lights are on your screen, ladies and gentlemen, and we are about to go racing. And we're off. Speedbarry gets a pretty decent start. Casper does as well. Tyrrell Snitzel having maybe half a look to get down the inside of La Source. They go side by side behind. So Casper, under threat from Tyrrell Snitzel, is going to be hurtling down for the first time towards El Rouge. They're side by side. Will there be any contact? Tyrrell Snitzel just out-drags him before. And will he be able to get an overtake done? He's going to try and go for it. And he's already going to go for a move for the lead of this race. Speedbarry couldn't get across in time to cover the inside. There is more grip on the outside line, so if Speedbarry can go late on the brakes, he may be able to maintain. No, Tyrrell Snitzel into the lead of the race immediately. Speedbarry is going to have to try and respond as quick as he can. There's contacts at the back. It looks like Dan. Oh, well, no, in fact, it's Hugh Golf. Hugh Golf off at the back, so that is very unfortunate for the Racing Point driver. His teammate has actually moved up into 8th position. So I'm not sure what happened to them. So it is Speedbarry giving chase to Tyrrell Snitzel, who seeks to get his 10th victory of the season. Casper just behind. Danny MG all over the back of the Alfa Romeo. Maybe thinking about a move perhaps into Fagnes, but not for the time being. In the background we see Lee Finley has already moved up to P10, so he's had a pretty strong start. The fresh softs probably giving him better traction off the start-finish line. Casper really struggling on this particular lap. Maybe under threat from Danny MG straight away. Speedbarry nearly 7/10 already behind Snitzel. If Snitzel can get away from the field, this may well be game over in terms of the race victory, but there's a long way to go here. The longest lap on the calendar, 22 of them here, 50% race distance as usual. Casper seems to have recovered somewhat in sector 3. Not so much under threat from Danny MG. Speedbarry, though, has managed to keep in touch. If he can keep within a second, then he can start using DRS to claw back an advantage. Let's have a look at Jim Roy. Jim Roy having a nearly slight contact on the Racing Point just behind. So I think we may have to see a move. P8 there. And let's go straight to the front again, because look at this, Tactician looking for a move. Danny MG. Danny MG was threatening for P3, but now he's under attack from the Alfa Romeo, the teammate of Casper. He's going to try and out-drag him. Not getting any good camera angles here, so we'll stick with the onboard. Tactician goes layers on the brakes, and to be fair, that's pretty good defending. Straight behind, and look at that. Jim Roy being overtaken by Lee Finley, and Save Frosty trying to follow through. So in terms of the winners and losers so far, it is 4 places gained for Lee Finley as he attempts to recover maybe from an injustice that happened in qualifying. He's already up to P9, so a really strong start from the Toro Rosso driver. And in terms of the intervals, well, it's very, very close. Not much to choose between the top 6 at the moment. Snitzel trying to break away in terms of the DRS, but for the time being, still only has 8/10 advantage. So I think he may be looking to go to high power modes in Blanchimont to try and get away from Speedbarry and break that DRS zone. And that's exactly what he's doing. He's got it in full power, trying to get away. But Speedbarry responds by switching it up to mode 4 himself. He cannot afford to let DRS Snitzel get out DRS so early into the race because it will be so difficult to do anything about it. And Racing Control are about to activate that DRS, but we'll go down the order because look at this. Delso on the back of Nicholas Mateo. Delso trying to get points on his debut and doing a pretty decent job so far, gaining 1 position from the start of the race. DRS enabled then, so here we go then. Let's have an impression. What is the straight line speed of Speedbarry? His pace in qualifying was absolutely mighty. He was 3/10 quicker than Snitzel. Can Speedbarry take the challenge, take the fight to the reigning champion? DRS is activated and New Golf is out of the race. As he called it a day immediately in the pit lane, that may be the case. Yes, straight line speed, he's able to close within half a second. So if he can stay within half a second for the rest of this lap, then Schnitzel may be under real pressure. And look at that side by side through Les Combes. And now Blizzard up to P5. So the Renault drivers going well. So you may see Dan Herves, he wasn't able to rejoin the session. So his car's kind of in limbo. So he's not actually on the track. So in effect, we've had 2 retirements. So 13 runners so far. So Taxis dropping 2 places from the start of the race. Started P4, qualified 5th. So he finished a motion that put him up onto the 2nd row. And Speedbarry is doing an excellent job so far of keeping in tabs with Zero Sunset, although he would be slightly disappointed that he lost the lead on lap 1, having had a pretty good getaway. He was not under threat in La Source, but he just couldn't get to the inside because Snitzel was already there. Such was the incredible speed he took through El Rouge and Radion on the first lap. But he is within DRS range, and he's a little bit closer than he was the previous laps, and he'll have 2 DRS zones this time, one on the start-finish straight between turns 19 and to the La Source hairpin, and then he'll have DRS, of course, at the end of Radion all the way to the end of the Campbell straight. So now he's got to try and put him under pressure. Speedbarry looks as though to be the one driver in terms of race pace who can give DRS Snitzel something to think about as he seeks a 10th win of the season. Just have a quick look at Jim Roy. Is he going to go for a move down the inside? He looked very close, takes a very narrow edge in terms of the line, but straight back to the fight for the lead. DRS Snitzel on the power. It's not any closer. It looks like they've got similar straight line speeds. But all the time, Speedbarry is able to get further and further ahead of Casper, who's kind of in limbo at the moment, doesn't have the DRS advantage. What about Jim Roy? Is Jim Roy able to get faster? No. So a bit of DRS train at the moment down the order. But Danny MG will know that if he makes any sort of mistake in sector 1, given the gap he has now to Casper, he's going to be really under pressure from the likes of Blizzard and Tactician and Nicholas Mateo. So it's a bit of a Danny train at the moment. So the top 10, Schnitzel, Speedbarry, Casper, Danny MG, Blizzard, Tactician, Nicholas Mateo, Desso, Lee Finley, and Williams Jim Roy. Then outside the top 10 we have 3 runners still in the race, and that is Stay Frosty, Jim Nardi Perez and Alex, the most experienced driver on the grid. Lap 4 then of this AOR F1 Belgian Grand Prix. You may be wondering if you've just joined why there's not the familiar tones of Andy. Well, he's at a rock concert tonight, but so hopefully he's having a great time there. And this is certainly shaping up to be a rock and roll kind of race if Speedbarry can keep this challenge up, and I hope so, because we want to see a fight for the lead to the end. The undercut can be very powerful here if you stop early, so I wonder if Speedbarry may consider switching to the medium a lap early to try and get the drop on DRS Snitzel. Still within DRS range, clearly has the pace to keep up. But the key thing will be, given that DRS Snitzel has been so good at managing his tyres, is when these softs start to go off a little bit, will Speedbarry be able to maintain that pace? That's going to be the question we will find out in the not too distant future. Casper has certainly broken away from Danny MG now. He's sort of in a no man's land position, not really threatening the top 2, but not really under threat from behind. We're going to keep on an eye just for a few moments on Speedbarry. He's a bit closer this time. Is there going to be any sort of attack by Renault versus Renault? No, there will not be. Behind, Stay Frosty, yeah, all single file through Les Combes. Don't often see overtakes once you get through the second part of Les Combes. Oof, and did you see that? that was the Red Bull of Jim Roy getting all out of shape just before Rivage. Stay Frosty in P11 for the time being. We'll go further up ahead of them. Blizzard in a solid P5. He's gained 2 places from the start, and he'll be getting a little bit impatient. He's clearly got a bit more pace than Danny MG at the moment. And you can just see from the dirty air, it's got a little bit out of shape through Fanyas, and then gets the power down to 4th gear into Stavalo, and then onto Blanchimont, which in itself is always a bit underrated as a section because of the brilliance of Eau Rouge and Radon, but I think Blanchimont is equally a thrilling part of the track. And it takes 2 very brave drivers instead to go side by side there, but it does happen occasionally. So this is the battle for P4. We'll be switching between this and the battle for lead. Speedbari just over half a second behind Tyrrell Snitzel. Nicholas Mateo is in the pit lane. Well, that's interesting. We'll see what tyres he goes for. Early pit stop for the softs. Going to keep an eye on this battle actually, because this looks a bit close, because I don't think Speedbari is quite close enough to get in that kill zone of Tyrrell Snitzel. In terms of the kill zone, this certainly looks close enough. I think Blizzard is going to go for a move here. Battle for P4. And Dan MG knows it's a long race. He's not going to fight that too much. Up to P4 he goes, and right behind that is a battle for P10. Save Frosty trying to get ahead of P9, I should say, trying to get ahead of Jim Roy, but not able to. So these are the medium runs. So the highest medium runner is P9 in Jim Roy. So he could be in really good shape, these medium runners, because they're not far behind. In terms of the gap to leader, there is only 10.7 seconds covering the top 12. Nicholas Mateo swapped to the mediums. That's very early for the mediums. I know they'll go quite a long way, but he's not going to have much tyre life if he doesn't stop again at the end of the race. So he's probably looking to get a huge undercut. He's going to suffer quite a bit of pain at the end of the race in terms of tyre performance. It's been a nice onboard shot. Save Frosty through Fanyas as William Jim Roy goes wide as they enter Stavalo for the 6th time in this Belgian Grand Prix. Looks like Tyrrell Snitzel is putting the hammer down just a little bit. That's the biggest the gap's been. But the slipstream that Speedbari will get for Snitzel will enable him to get a bit of the gap back. But Speedbari just not able to get right into that proverbial kill zone for an overtake. But he is holding on gamely. He's giving Snitzel a lot to think about. And more pit stops, and Danny MG pitting as well. Blizzard sets the fastest lap of the race, and I think that's partly down to the massive tow he got into Eau Rouge. He's now threatening Casper possibly for P3. So another early pit stop for Danny MG. These are earlier pit stops than I expected. I expected them to stretch these tyres out a little bit more longer than this. So Nicholas Mateo was behind Danny MG, so it'd be interesting to see if he was able to get any sort of undercut on him. Quite a short pit lane here, and it does cut out. Straight side by side. Save Frosty moving up to P8. Jim Roy's not been able to get much pace down on these mediums so far. So Save Frosty, the highest running runner in terms of the medium tyres at the moment. So Nicholas Mateo pitted early but wasn't able to get ahead of Danny MG, so that's interesting. So Danny MG looking to go a bit earlier than some of the drivers in front. Perhaps that will enable him to regain that 4th position from Blizzard and maybe even undercut the likes of Casper. But Speedbari then tantalisingly close to the race leader. And I tell you what, it's getting a little bit dark, isn't it? The fog, the mist has descended on the Ardennes forest, something that this region of the world in Belgium is very much known for. The hilly terrain and the forests. Many of the classic fairy tales that you would have been read as a kid originate from places like this. That's the top 2 again. Enter the final corner. And Speedbari, I have to say, this looks pretty close. Much closer than he has from the laps before. So does this give Speedbari half a chance to go on an attack? He's just over half a second. I'll tell you what, wasn't a great exit from Snitzel. This may be an opportunity. So we're going to ride on board onto El Rouge, and yes, this is an opportunity. Schnitzel is struggling for rear traction here. Didn't get a good exit out of La Source, and that compromises speed. Schnitzel takes the inside. Speed Barry taking the fight to the reigning and defending AOR F1 champion and takes the lead of the Belgian Grand Prix with the simplest of DRS overtakes. Wow. We've got a race on here, that is for sure, and I hope this goes all the way to the end of the race. But Speed Barry unleashing that pace that we saw in qualifying. But now, yeah, 70% battery. Is that enough for him to go on quite the crusade for the rest of the lap to break the DRS and give Tyrrell Schnitzel really something to worry about? But that has turned a race that could, after lap 1, have been not that interesting if Schnitzel had gone off into distance, into something that I hope everyone will stick to the end. So Schnitzel down to P2, Casper in P3, Blizzard settling in P4. So Danny MG, he'll be getting quite the undercut with that clean air he's got ahead of him. So I think he could be threatening P3 once everyone else is pitted. Maybe even the top 2. Depends how fast he's going on those mediums. So I think realistically it may well be more threatening the likes of Blizzard and Casper. But have Casper and Blizzard kept the pace in those softs? It looks like the top 2 certainly have. So what's Schnitzel going to do? Through the final corner he goes. Is he going to go for pit stop? Nope, they have plenty of life left in those tyres by the looks of it. And he's got DRS. Similar setups on these 2 cars. So now the hunter becomes the hunted. And there is a Silver Arrow looking to spear its way into the lead of this race once again. Riding down the hill. When you see this corner in real life, it is far steeper than it looks behind the wheel of the Formula 1 cars. Leaf and the Tactician both peel off into the pit lane. Look at that, the straight line speed is incredible for Speed Barry, but I think Schnitzel was saving battery because he puts it down to mode 0. So Nicholas Mateo's actually got ahead. Just have a quick look, and Jim Roy back ahead of Steve Frosty in the battle for P6. And Schnitzel hounding the back of that Toro Rosso. He's not letting this go. He wants to win number 10 today. But will this battling allow Casper and Blizzard to sort of ease their way into this battle for the victory here? Through P1 they go for the 9th time. Trying to build up his battery, but Speed Barry, has to be said, managing his battery better than the Mercedes driver. He's got 70% battery compared to just under 60% that Schnitzel has got. And that may well prove crucial when they pit and do their outlap. Because that outlap could well be the deciding factor of who wins this race here today. So Speed Barry did a brilliant job earlier on in the race of keeping within that 1 second and using the DRS to slowly claw into Schnitzel's advantage. And Schnitzel has clearly got the race pace still to stay in touch with Speed Barry. Now he's right on the back of the Toro Rosso driver. You're going to think maybe about a move at the La Source hairpin. You don't actually see too many moves at the La Source hairpin during the race unless someone's made a real meal of the final corner, spinning up the tyres, which is very much possible. May see a move for P5 shortly because Jim Roy is right on the back of the Racing Point. So may have a quick look at that. And now I tell you what, I saw a telltale sign of rain, ladies and gentlemen. Anyone who streams or looks at spectating knows you see like a flash of like a white texture, and that is usually a sign that rain is coming. And I think rain is coming. And yes, it is. Rain is here. Someone on the pit garage has been doing a rain dance because there is rain falling on the circuit. So those who pitted early, we may have found out why. A few spots of rain, but we are nowhere near ready for the wet tyres. But these guys on the softs have got to stretch it out as long as possible. It's just a Silverstone situation once again. So Jim Roy, who just overtook Desso for P5, he may well have pulled off a blinder here, because if this rain doesn't fall quickly enough, then those on the soft tyres, well, they are going to be, not literally because it won't be dry, but they will be hung out to dry in terms of the strategy. And Tyrrell Schnitzel's had an awful Sector 2. Nearly 7 tenths behind Speed Barry now. I got that the right way around, I think. I thought I said Speed Barry first, but sometimes you forget what you say 10 seconds ago. Such is the action that goes on in these races. Tyrrell Schnitzel then carrying on. The rain is falling, and they know they can't pit yet. They've got to try and stretch these tyres out as quickly as possible. The rain's starting to fall a little bit harder. If this rain doesn't fall quickly enough, or indeed fall at all enough for these wet tyres, then, well, it could still be a dry race, but making it a little bit trickier in terms of the traction. In terms of the overall weather for the race, we didn't get any indication what it was going to be. So for the time being, we just have a few spots of rain. It's beginning to fall a little bit better, and that's not a good exit to Radion from Speedbar. And I think Tira Snissel is going to have a run for the lead of this race. Speedbar has got to cover the inside. He's not going to. He's going to try and get the traction on the outside. And no, he doesn't defend it. Tira Snissel back into the lead of this race. So we're entering a critical phase, I think, of this particular race here. And Stay Frosty rides on the back of Jim Roy. And they will be hoping that something like Silverstone happens where they, running the longer option, will give them the advantage. Stay Frosty looking to pull off that tactical masterclass once again. But those who stopped really early, the likes of Danny MG, Tactician, Nicholas Matteo, and Lee Finley, well, it may work. It may come back to them, possibly, if this rain takes a long time to really settle down. But at the moment, the rain's sweeping in from the hills. Tira Snissel is really going for it now, trying to break the DRS right here, right now. I do think Speedbar maybe should have defended a little bit more. He's gone full power. Snitsel has as well. They are leaving Casper for dead now. Relatively speaking, 2-second gap now between second and third place. In terms of the gap for the field, it is 20-second gap between Danny MG and Tira Snitsel. So that's about a pit stop get advantage that Tira Snitsel has on P10. Desso is continuing to fall down the order, and something's happened to Desso. What's happened to Desso? He must have cut the final corner because that's an instant 10-second penalty. So Desso really struggling on those new softs. The Speedbar, he knows he's not out of this race just yet. Just has to stay in touch with Tira Snitsel. Has the DRS to get back within range of Tira Snitsel, who's got double less battery than Speedbar. Let's have a good. Here we go then. Jim Roy not putting up any fight. Stay Frosty up to P5. Lap 12 of this AOR F1 race. The rain is falling, but nowhere near hard enough for intermediate conditions yet. So Desso with that 10-second penalty may not be getting debut points here today because that has really compromised his race. Jim Nardi Perez has dropped back behind the racing point again, so Desso still got a bit of straight line speed at least, if not the tyre life. So your race order at the moment, Tyrrell Snitsel. And oh, it's going to be an overtake at Pouon. They're going to go side by side through Pouon. Slight curve for Jim Nardi Perez, nearly risking an accident there, but that was a ballsy overtake from the Red Bull driver, and up to P7 he goes. So that was great stuff. I'm glad we caught that because I was about to switch back to the top two. But look at, in terms of the battle for the top two, through Blanchimont they go. Speedbar, he's crucial. He's got to stay within that DRS range of Snitsel. Otherwise he will lose further ground. But luckily Blanchimont, such a high speed section using the slipstream, able to get back in touch. Snitsel pits. Snitsel pits. And so does Speedbar. Is anyone going to stay out? No, Casper comes in. Blizzard comes in. So advantage to Stay Frosty and Jim Roy. Will they try and go deep into this race? It's going to be hell. No, he's not. And did Speedbar got out ahead? Oh no, I was about to say he got out ahead of the Mercedes driver. No, he hasn't even taken his pit stop yet. So where is the likes of Danny MG? Because they have... Yeah, Danny MG, is he going to undercut and get ahead of the Mercedes? No, he's not. He's going to have a run on Speedbar. They're going to go side by side on the run down to Eau Rouge, and Danny MG is going to get ahead of him. Can Speedbar come back at him? And that is a huge moment for Tyrrell Snitzel's race. Speedbar's got to try and get it straight ahead of him. 6-lap old mediums for Danny MG. Speedbar will go straight back past him. Thank you very much. But even that, it's not a good pit stop. Intermediate tyres for Blizzard. Oh dearie me, that is not going to work out. Nowhere near enough spray for that. Because don't forget, it's a long lap here. So he may come back to him towards the end of the lap, but he's going to lose so much time before then. So Blizzard may well have played himself out of contention for a podium. But intermediate conditions for Blizzard. and Delso. That is a gamble of gambles, but that is not going to work out for them, at least for the time being. Look how much time they're losing already. As Nicotero picks up a customary penalty. Right on the back of him is Casper, battle for P9. He's on 7 laps. Nicotero on those medium tyres. He was the first driver to pit. So Tyrrell Snitzel then on the back of his teammate. And I suspect there's not going to be too much of a fight here. And now, if this rain continues to fall, then advantage Stay Frosty and Jim Roy. But the question is, when will they pit? That's going to be the crucial question for those two. They've got to make this last. A little bit of spray on the tyres starting to emerge. But I think it's still going to be slightly in advantage of the dry tyre. We're in the maybe in the verge of the crossover period. But, well, Tyrrell Snitzel held up a little bit by his teammate. Look how slow the lead Mercedes was out of that corner. But yeah, I think Alex is going to go, yeah, he's going to give the way through. Alex, it's James. And there you go. So at the moment, Tyrrell Snitzel can look down and has no cars ahead of him, but he's not in the lead. He's in P4. Silverstone, it's a repeat of that situation once again. Now here we go. This is the battle for the lead, and this could well decide the outcome of this race. Here comes Jim Roy, looking to win this race as he did in season 17, and he takes the lead from Stay Frosty. And now they'll be praying to every rain dance god on the planet to get this rain to fall as quickly as possible, because they're on such old mediums now. Tyrrell Snitzel on those fresh mediums will rapidly catch these three. If this rain doesn't fall hard enough. At the moment, it is not hard enough for intermediate tyres. You can see in the time that is being lost for the likes of Blizzard and Deso. I mean, look how slowly they're going through their comms. I mean, that is tragic for the Renault team. They did not get that call right. But they may not have had any choice. They may have not had any tyres left on those softs, but in some ways it may have been better just to pit for the mediums. Yes, he would have lost a lot of places anyway when the rain crossed over, if indeed it does cross over. But he would have at least not lost the time he's losing now, because now in terms of the gap to leader, he's now 30 seconds behind the race leader. I think Mateo now has 6 seconds of penalty, so his day is not going to go. And no, Nicholas Mateo is out of the race. What on earth's happened to him? Oh, he has crashed at the exit of Stavelo just before Blanchimont, so that is a unusual place. We'll get a better view of it. Jim Nardi Perez pits. Yeah, there he is. That's a bit of a hazard. Will there be a safety car? Well, I think you know the answer to that. No. And it's softs. Softs for Nardi Perez. Well, that could be a genius call, or it could be an absolute disaster. We're about to find out. So we'll go back to the front because the fight for the lead carries on. Stay Frosty retakes the lead. The rain is getting a bit harder, it has to be said. It's definitely coming down harder, but not hard enough still for the instance. And I think that's why Nardi Perez carried on. Speed Barry overtakes Alex for P4. What about Tactician? Tactician just behind. So your main battle is this battle then for the lead. Tyrrell Snitzel. 5.6 seconds behind. Blizzard picks up a 3-second time penalty. He isn't giving up the intermediate dream, but it has turned into a bit of a nightmare for him. That was not the right call. Perhaps he should have just done what the likes of Snitzel and Speed Barrage, just pit for the mediums and see if Stay Frosty and Jim Roy can keep their tyres going. Because we're not too far from that sort of period where the mediums really drop off. And Tyrrell Snitzel and Speed Barrage will catch these guys rapidly, but look, the gap between Snitzel and Speed Barrage is now 3 seconds. So if Stay Frosty and Jim Roy have to pit, then I think Snitzel has this race one hand on the winner's trophy once again in an AOR F1 Grand Prix. But the rain is falling harder, but not hard enough. Through the bus stop they go. I think it's a win or nothing situation for these two drivers. They're just going to have to keep going until these tyres blow up. I think that's the only thing they can do. Because even if Snitzel catches and passes them, they're still in a great position for a podium. Alex pits then. So what is Alex going for, I wonder? But we'll keep an eye on this battle because the battle for lead carries on. 4.4 second gap now between Roy and Snitzel. So the Mercedes driver is coming, and oh, that looks like there's a little bit less grip now on El Rouge and Radion. It looks a bit hairy there at the top of the hill. And here comes Jim Roy. He's going to try and retake the lead. These two have been next to each other in the midfield and at the front for pretty much the entire race. They are very familiar with each other now. And Schnitzel actually dropped a bit of time in Sector 1. 4.7. Now it's 4.2 as that gets updated. Tactician unable to get ahead. So Alex has gone on to the softs now. Will this rain actually fall hard enough to warrant any real use of these intermediate tyres? That's going to be the interesting question. Just keeping an eye on Blizzard's sector times, seeing he seems to be gaining a bit of time on Alex, has to be said. So I'll be about to reach that crossover period. It's getting pretty dark out there. If you're out hiking in the hills in the Ardennes forest, this would not be ideal weather for that. Although plenty of cover from the trees, of course. But stay frosty. And Jim Roy, they know that the rain's got to come soon. Because don't forget, if this DRS is never disabled, if Race Control don't disable DRS at all, they've still got to pit for a different selection of tyres. And that's something they will both know all too well as we get a nice shot of Blanchimont from the view of the helicopter. Through the bus stop they go, and you might see a flash of the Mercedes just behind them. Yes, there is Schnitzel right there. And here we go, Jim Roy pits, struggling for traction as he enters the pit lane. Is this going to be intermediate tyres? I think we'll stick on board with him just for a few moments. I want to see what it's going to be. It's intermediates for the Red Bull driver. It's a long lap here, so it could pay off for him halfway through. But stay frosty, looking to repeat what he did at Silverstone. Oh my goodness, look at the traction. Not much traction there. We'll go to the fight for P4. It's a three-way scrap. Renault versus Alfa Romeo. Here comes Tactician. Oh, that was a bit of lag. Oh, what's happened there? Danny MG just disconnected. You may wonder that was strange. Or did he have to pause or wheel shut off or something? That was a bit odd. The Tactician ghost butted his way through into P4. So how is Jim Roy doing? 2.9 behind Perez. No, he's dropping time. There's definitely visible spray now coming from those tyres. If the DRS is disabled halfway through the lap, he'll suddenly gain a ton of time. So he can't give up just yet. So Danny MG down to P5. Yeah, Nando Perez is still getting away. As Desso picks up another time penalty. Well, he will be dead last, assuming he finishes, because he's got that 10-second penalty. Maybe it'll be removed on the race, but that penalty, 7.6 seconds off 11th place. So yeah, no points, I don't think, unless something dramatic happens for Desso. So we've had 3 retirements so far. Daniel Alves is not in the race. He disconnected and couldn't rejoin. So effectively 12 runners left here in this particular race. Tyrrell Schnitzel, it's been 1.7 seconds. The rain is just not coming from the McLaren driver. Heading now towards the bus stop chicane. Going to go straight back to this freeway fight for P4. Is Stay Frosty? Yeah, Stay Frosty is going to carry on. No, Stay Frosty pits. Stay Frosty pits. And that hands the lead of this race back to Tyrrell Schnitzel as we just saw Tactician have an awful entry to the bus stop, and he's going to get overtaken by Danny MG. Is Casper going to go and go through the middle of them? Tactician gives it up. Just didn't have the speed. That may have been a bit of team orders there. And here comes the battle. Stay Frosty has gone for the intermediate tyres. Be interesting to see if Jim Roy was able to get ahead of him, but it's still, I don't think, went enough. Oh my goodness! Oh wow, that was a hair-raising moment there. Nando Perez on the softs. That has looked like a really good move for him. If he can keep those going a little bit, maybe able to get some overtakes done. Danny MG in 3rd, Casper in 4th, Tactician in 5th, Nando Perez in 6th. This is the battle for the podium. The top 2 looks like it's been concreted now, and there's a battle going on behind them. Yeah, well, wouldn't you know it? These two stuck like glue the entire race, and they still are. It was worth the gamble what they tried, but they just couldn't get it to work. And it's lap 18. There's a bit of spray now, but it's still, I mean, just still not enough to justify these tyres as the quicker tyre. 4.3 second gap between Jim Roy, but don't forget, these two don't have to pit again if the intermediates come. So in terms of the gap here, it's 15 seconds. Jim Roy and Stay Frosty, because so if this gap maintains, they're still in with a shout of winning this race. It's around, I think the pit loss here is, I think around somewhere between 16 to 18 seconds, I think, if you get a good pit stop here. I think they're just within. And look, they are beginning to catch Nardi Perez a bit. A good Sector 2 and Sector 3 for those two drivers. Here comes Nardi Perez, looking to go for a move. Not around the outside of Blanchimont. I think he's going to think about it. Tactician gave him the room. Oh, he slams the door shut. Showed him what he thought of that. Is he going to go for a move down the inside to the bus stop? No, he will not. But look at that. They are definitely catching it. Danny MG pits. And so does Nardi Perez. And I think it may well be time for Inters. And Snitzel and Speed Barry have gone again. If DRS is disabled right now, I tell you what, Roy and Frosty could still be in the hunt here. 2.2 second gap now between Jim Roy and Tactician. I don't know how this race is going to end, but this is absolutely incredible. Will it be wet enough? Nardi Perez and Danny MG pit. The DRS was still not disabled. Up the hill they go. Oh my goodness, it's not a good exit out of Radion, and Jim Roy's under a big threat from Save Frosty, who just has a bit more of a planter car. Maybe he added some wing in the pit lane, and up to P5 he goes, and they are now catching rapidly. Those two Alfa Romeos up ahead. So the gap in terms of leaders now, well, 13.9 seconds. So it's just going to be a case of the leaders staying out to the end of the race, and Save Frosty and Jim Roy on these tyres, which look the better tyre now, the intermediate tyre, trying to chase them down at the end. This is similar to a race we saw in season 17 or 16. I think it was the race Curly won in season 17 at China, which ended up like this. Some of the drivers being chased, and down the inside, look at the grip the Inters have. The dry tyres are done. Oh, I say that, and Save Frosty runs off the road. It is very... Oh, wow, well, that's a good save from Save Frosty. I definitely jinxed him there. I do apologise, but it looks like we're on the very edge of the cut-off period between the Inters and the dries. There's not much to choose between them. But I think in terms of the forward grip, it looks a bit more on these Inter tyres. Tacticians is not able to get the power down. And they're 10-lap-old mediums, so they're not at the end of their life. They would go plenty more. Oh, side by side with Blanchimont. This could end in tears. Oh, it just wasn't enough room. There's not enough. Oh, it's slight contact between the two, and Jim Roy's had enough of this. He's going to go late on the brakes, forcing Tactician to go very deep. They're going to go side by side through the bus stop. Lap 20, free to go here at Spa-Francorchamps. And Tactician has lost another place. He's got no tyres left. Fresh tyres, definitely better. I think the likes of Snitzel and Speed Barry, I think, unless it really pours with rain now, I think they're going to be settled for the top two. But Casper, in terms of getting onto the podium, he's under real threat now from Jim Roy. It's getting closer and closer. Roy and Frosty have had excellent races, both gaining 6 places. It may be a 7 for Roy. Down the inside he goes. He's got better grip, and yes, he's done it. Up to P3 and onto the podium, and I think Casper is about to lose another place to save Frosty. He's got no grip. You don't often see many overtakes of Rivage, but I think Frosty will be able to late on the brakes, and yes he does. Into P4 he goes. Oh, Casper tries to fight it, but he's got nothing, absolutely nothing to fight with. So he's going to have to probably settle for the time being for P5. Now, 3 to go, well, 2.5 laps to go. In terms of the leaders, 12.6 gap between Speed Barry and Snitzel. Can the rain fall hard enough to really affect the top two? Maybe not Snitzel. Snitzel may have enough in hand over 2 laps. The dry tyres are, when it's intermediate conditions, the dry tyres are allowed 7 seconds a lap slower than the intermediates. But the DRS is still not being disabled. Race control still okay with this. It's a bit of spray, but not too much. So I don't think it's going to be wet enough. In terms of the lap times, Tyrell Snitzel has picked up a 10-second time penalty. He must have gone straight on at the chicane. The grip may be going. Oh no. Whoa, dramatic scenes here at Spa. What on earth has happened there? Not sure if Speed Barry will know this, but Tyrell Snitzel, well, it is a slam dunk 10-second penalty when you cut that chicane, although he may get a removal of that if it wasn't one of those ones where he went literally straight on the chicane. It was like a slight cut, because that can often be removed, but nonetheless, Speed Barry may be on to win this race. He is being caught by Jim Roy. The interval is dropped to 6.3 seconds. Penultimate lap here at Spa. The rain has really made it interesting. And Nicholas Mateo has retired from the... Oh no, he retired earlier, I should say. There's yellows in Sector 3. Oh, it's Blizzard. Blizzard has gone off at Blanchimont. So Deso may be on course still for some points. If anyone else decides to bin it. You know, the rain's, it's got to be wet conditions now for Jim Roy to win the race now. I just don't think he's going to have enough time. He's going to run out of laps before he catches Speed Bar in Schnitzel. And it's Stay Frosty still right there with him. Very unusual conditions here. It just hasn't ever got wet enough for these drivers. It seems to be wet enough for the Inters, but not wet enough to be, you know, that much quicker in terms of threatening the two leaders. So highly unusual conditions. But will the DRS be disabled on the final lap to really make things difficult for the top two? Oh, Stay Frosty went a bit wider than he would have liked there. The little barrier that sticks out on the left-hand side there would have invited him for some damage there if he'd hit that at that speed. So Jim Roy closing in on Speed Bari. Final lap then has begun here at Belgium. Tyrrell Schnitzel on course for victory number 10 here in AOR F1. Although with that penalty, he may well be losing it on track, but it may be reversed in the stewards, but we'll have to take it as it is. So Tyrrell Schnitzel heading through El Rouge and Radion for the last time. Just behind him is Speed Bari. I'd say just behind him, 5.6 second gap. And Jim Roy, he'll be slightly disappointed the rain just didn't fall hard enough, because Jim Roy and Stay Frosty, in terms of the strategy, almost got it spot on. Almost. It didn't fall hard enough. They had to pit eventually to use a different compound. The DRS is still not disabled. 4 second gap now. Such a long lap though. If the rain was suddenly really bad, Speed Bari could be under real threat here. So at the moment it's a 9.9 second gap. So Tyrrell Schnitzel could actually fall down to third position if he's not careful. So Alex right behind Lee Fenner. They're going side by side. Oh, and this is the battle for P9. Alex, thank you very much there. Up to P9 he goes. Can Lee Finley come back at him? Not for the time being. So we'll go back to Tyrrell Schnitzel. Through Blanchimont he goes for the final time as he looks to win here at Spa-Francorchamps. Speed Bari a distant 6.7 seconds behind now. He really put up a good fight for Schnitzel today, but he may still win. If that's a legitimate penalty, he is about to take his second win of the season. Tyrrell Schnitzel through the final corner and on track at least. He's going to take the victory here at Spa. But with that penalty, Speed Bari, unless he had more penalties himself, will this be victory for Speed Bari? Yes, it is. Speed Bari wins the Belgian Grand Prix. His second victory of the season after winning in France. Williams Jim Roy in a brilliant P3. And Stay Frosty in P4. Speed Bari is the man of the moment. Victory here at Spa. It may go to the stewards afterwards in terms of their penalties, but we'll take it as it is for the time being. So a great effort. If Tyrrell Schnitzel made that mistake, he took full advantage of it, and he takes the maximum 25 points, and that puts him second in the championship. I mean, it will likely only slightly halt Schnitzel's progress to a second title, who yet again finishes in the top two. 13 races now, Schnitzel has finished at least second every single race. I mean, that is just staggering to me. We wait for the final finisher, which will be Blizzard, a very much a distant P12. In terms of the fastest lap, that will go to Blizzard, so no bonus point added today. But Speed Bari certainly will be very happy if he keeps this win. I think he drove superbly today. That pole lap was absolutely fantastic as well. So we will invite the top three into the interview just to see what happened, especially with Schnitzel. So it's three of the drivers who have really done well in recent seasons of AOR F1. It is Speed Barry who takes the victory here, celebrating on the podium, with Schnitzel in second and Jim Roy in third. So Barry becomes the first repeat winner outside of Tyrrell Schnitzel. So that is not bad going, given the dominance that the Mercedes driver has enjoyed this season. So this is very much, as usual, a provisional result for this particular race, but it is Speed Barry who takes the victory here. Tyrrell Schnitzel in second, Jim Roy in third, Frosty in fourth, Casper in fifth, Tactician in sixth, Danny MG in seventh, Jim Nardi Perez in eighth, Alex in ninth, and Lee Finley taking the final points, with Desso 11th on his debut, and Blizzard the only other finisher in this particular race. So we're going to have to see what happened. We're going to get the drivers in for an interview shortly, so bear with us as I get the invite sent out to them. So what did you make of that race? Very interesting conditions, wasn't it? I mean, you really didn't know how the race was going to end out. It didn't really have the grandstand finish it may well have had. But it was still a race full of a lot of good action. So, going to get our top three in here. So bear with us, guys. But yeah, I think we can agree, certainly a more entertaining race than what we saw at the Hungaroring last week. So hopefully we get those drivers into the podium very shortly. So looking back at the start of the race, it was a really good start from Speed Barry, but yeah, Schnitzel, as ever, just getting the power down. A nice move at La Source to get ahead of Casper, and then he just absolutely launched it past Speed Barry, who just couldn't react to cover the inside at the start. But then it was a really good duel between those two throughout the first stint. Speed Barry actually taking the lead of the race. But then Tyrrell Schnitzel fighting back as the rain began to fall. But the rain never fell hard enough for the DRS to be disabled. So Speed Barry has joined us, so I think we are going to begin the interviews very shortly. Speed Barry, welcome to the podium. A big congratulations for your victory today here at the Belgian Grand Prix. Now, in terms of how the race went, you certainly gave Schnitzel a challenge early on, but then it kind of faded later on in the race. So were you surprised when you crossed the line and saw that you'd won the race?
Hi everyone. Yeah, it just was a insane race. When I see the map, when two guys just went in the pit lane, I just told myself, oh my god, did I made a mistake or no? But I just carry on a sleek. Even every time I just question up to my engineer, and he was every time talking me, okay, the slick tire was faster, but I just saw, actually, to be honest, the intermediate tire was faster as well. But anyway, Schnitzel has a insane pace, to be honest. And then I really congrats to him. And then yeah, when I just crossed the line, I was like, okay, P2 is so good in the race, and then I just saw I win, and then I'm super happy, to be honest.
That's brilliant. Well, as we wait for the rest of the podium to join us, talk us through your quali lap. That was, I think you would probably agree, the best qualifying lap you've done this season. I mean, no one was really that close to you. It was an absolutely brilliant lap.
Yeah, actually, my PB without the slipstream is at 41.8. Well, I just lost 2/10. I don't know. It's not good for me, but my PB without slipstream, I never done a 0.5, but I think I can do 0.5 as well. but yeah, because in the race you have a little bit nervous and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a good qualifying, to be honest. Maybe I don't know. Maybe Silverstone is. I like Silverstone more, but yeah, this lap time is like insane as well.
Okay, well, it was certainly a lap for the ages, and hopefully you can share it with us so we can all see it on Twitter or something like that later. But now, moving on to the driver who finished P2. Well, Dominic, I said it in one of the streams recently that you must be an alcoholic from the amount of champagne you've had to drink on the podium this season. But a P1 on track, which became a P2, unfortunately. So perhaps you can tell us what happened to get that 10-second penalty.
Well, it will be a P1, don't worry. Well, the game works in certain corners, like the last chicane in Japan, or in this instance as well, the last chicane at Spa. No matter what you do in the final chicane, well, if you exceed track limits at those kind of corners, it will instantly give you a 10-second penalty, because the game is programmed to give those harsh penalties, since you can cut it pretty easily there, or since you can gain potentially quite a lot by simply straight lining it. So no matter what you do, it punishes everything with 10 seconds. And that was on 2 warnings up until that point. So I'll for sure work on getting that rectified and making that a 3 seconds instead of 10 seconds. But yeah, other than that, the race was, well, congrats on the quali lap from Speedbar, first of all. That's just an insane, even with slipstream, that's an insane lap time. And yeah, the race, I felt pretty confident about my race pace, just being soft, just being very gentle on the tires, being consistent, and then that really played dividends, I feel, in the first stint, being able to push them until like 5 or 6 laps beyond the actual pit window, since none of us knew what the hell we should do with the incoming rain. And then the rain, then on the second stint, it was a pretty adventurous, let's say, feeling on the medium tires, because none of us ever knew if we should pit or if we shouldn't pit, because the pre-race prediction said that the rain would stop very near the end, that it would only be like 5 minutes long. It turned out to be a lot longer than that, and a lot more difficult to manage than what the game predicted initially. But yeah, I was more than once, I was just on the cusp of pitting for Inters, but I was happy in the end, of course, that I didn't do so, because that would have cost me the race, I guess. Yeah, that's my race, I guess.
Yeah, and then I wanna congrats to Dominic. He has a insane pace in the race, and then he just, I don't know how he's so fast, but really congrats to him. I hope if maybe he will just get P1, but anyway, it's a P2 is still really good for me.
Well, I guess now focus will go to the Temple Speed as we go to Italy next week. I have to ask, Dominic, have you got sort of plans to travel in January? Because you seem to be very keen to wrap up this title as soon as possible.
No, not initially, no, but maybe I can. No, I don't.
Well, Speed Barry, your thoughts on Italy next week? In some ways, the setup for Italy is not that too far off Belgium in terms of the low downforce, but a lot less corners, of course. It's essentially a series of straight split by 3 chicanes. But is it a track that sort of plays to your strengths, or are you going to be looking towards the likes of Singapore and Russia that are coming up?
Because Monza, I think all drivers really don't enjoy it when driving, because it's all about a straight, in my opinion. I like more Singapore and Russia. The track is more corner, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to Monza as well. Yeah, to can again challenge the top is really good for me. And then I hope we will see again the good race and a good battle, and then exactly the train DRS as well.
Excellent. And same question to you, Dom.
What I think about the race, or what I'm expecting?
Yeah, Italy is our next race. Is that a circuit which, pretty much every circuit seems to have been strong for you, so I'm not sure that's even a good question, but your thoughts on the Temple Speed Monza next week? Well,
it will be a pretty interesting one driving-wise, I'm sure, since you run pretty much next to no downforce at all, so you're pretty much driving a rocket ship without any, that's not barely touching the ground, so that'll be pretty challenging to drive. But yeah, it will be interesting to see how the DRS trains pan out this time, since this is pretty much the definition of a DRS train, I would imagine, at Monza. So, but I'm looking forward to it, just being on the edge with the car at all times, since there's little to no grip compared to most of the other tracks, and it will be interesting, I'm sure.
Well, and I'm sure the both of you will be thinking of using your teammates for the tow, which is very infamous at the Italian circuit. Well, I think one last question to Dom before we wrap this up this evening. In terms of your performances so far, given that it is highly likely you'll be winning the second championship in this tier, which one stands out for you so far as one where you believe that everything went perfectly?
Well, just pace or driving wise, I would feel that Silverstone was actually my best race from what I was able to do with the circumstances. Like, it wasn't a win in the end, but I feel like I made the absolute most out of what I was given in terms of opportunities. And I'm guessing, just by how it went and by how the whole race panned out, it has to be Monaco.
Well, fantastic. Well, a big congratulations to the podium. The stewards will, I'm sure, sort out what order they actually finished in a few hours' time. Jim Roy unfortunately couldn't join us on the podium because it was on Discord, but hopefully he'll be able to join us next time if he's on the podium. A second podium in a row for Jim Roy, so he's really back in form and cementing his place in the championship. But in terms of the races, round 14 will take place at the Autodromo Nazionale Monza for the Italian Grand Prix, and I'm sure the passion of the Tifosi will be hoping that Ferrari gets a huge result there. Thanks for watching, and see you next time on AOR F1.